ranking every Manchester United player this season. There's not going to be many good ones. There's going to be a lot of bad ones. We won't do too much for a rant or a complaint because the season's over. We're going to be positive. Ten Hag is here, but as you can see, well, as you can't see because I haven't got up on the screen, but as you'll see now, there is a cheeky little tier list on the screen. Obviously, the ranks are good. You can stay at a club. You've actually been a good player this season. No one's really been good, bar Ronaldo, Hair, and some players have had some good moments. But good means you've had a good season. You know what? You haven't embarrassed yourself. Like the rest of the team, bench is like, you know what? You've been pretty crap this season. But you know what? You can stay next season. You can be on the bench. You're not causing dressing room issues. Future stars, the youngsters. Poor, you've had a poor season. Very poor, you've been awful. And then for sale, you're sold. We've got all the players, including some of the youth as well, because a couple of them have been out on loan. So I thought, you know what? Let's dive in to the tier list, guys. So smash your like, smash your subscribe, smash a share, and yeah, let's get into the tier list. There might be some more transfer news update videos later on the channel. Lots of stuff going on with De Jong, so do make sure you're subscribed for all the latest transfer news updates and more. But into the tier list, which one do we prefer? Do we prefer? No, I prefer that. I know you get to see more of me if I do that, so I prefer that layout. We're going to start with Dello, and I think he's a bench player at best. I don't think he's been awful this season. I actually think he's been one of our better performers under Ralph Rangnick, but that's because everyone's been shit, so it's not really hard. You could put him in poor, to be fair. He has been pretty poor. He had some good moments. He started quite well under Rangnick, and we get quite a few clean sheets in Rangnick's first sort of 2 months, and then Rangnick's last 2 months have been shite. So with Dello, I think he's been okay. I think he's had poor games. I think he's had other games, but I think when you look at the whole squad, is he in top 5 worst performers? No. Is he in top 10 worst performers? No. Is he a player I would keep at United to be on the bench and get a new fresh right back? And yes, he would be a backup right back. I think, you know, when you look at Dello recently, he was in poor. If you look at him at the start of Rangnick's spell, he's in bench. He's a bench player at best. He's not one of the worst players in the team because most of the team is awful at the moment. So I'm going to be generous and put a Dello in bench player at best because I don't mind Dello staying as long as, you know, he's not a week in, week out starter unless he starts performing good. Although you could put him in poor. Rafael Varane, I'm going to put in good, can stay. Now, I don't think he's had a good season to the level of Ronaldo or other players. He's been injured. He's been a little bit poor towards the end of the season, but so has everyone. But, you know, up until about 2 months ago, Rafael Varane was one of our best performers. When Varane played, we normally were quite defensively solid. He was poor in, was it the Brighton game? He was poor in that game when he played. But other than that, you know, he's been all right. Rafael Varane, not been brilliant, not been awful, but I think he's been one of our good players, and I think he's a player that can stay. Paul Pogba, he's had a poor season. He really has. He had moments where he was okay. He had a moment where for like a 6-7 game period where he was quite good. But I think, you know, with Pogba's standards and all that, you've got to put him in poor. He's very, very poor, and he is for sale. Well, he's leading. He's gone. You know, Pogba's been poor. I'm going to put Fred in the good category, and you're going to be like, well, you know, I'm going to be honest with you guys. Before you go, oh, Fred's in the good category. It doesn't take much to be in the good category. The good category basically means you've done what's expected. You've not embarrassed yourself. It's not that you've been brilliant or been amazing. It is you can stay. You've not embarrassed yourself. Fine. That is the good category. You know, that is the good category. I think we can all agree on that. I think Fred's been one of our best performers under Rangnick. I think there was a period under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer where Fred was freaking dreadful first few games of the season, but it's been one of our better performers. He doesn't cause dressing room issues. He always tries. Always runs his socks off. I'm going to put Bruno in poor as well. Look, I think Bruno's been worse than Pogba, I would say. But the reason I put Bruno in poor with Pogba and not very poor is because Bruno has had some importance this season. The first 3 months of the season, Bruno was quite good. Then he dropped off massively. He got much worse when Rangnick came in. He was all right under Ollie. He wasn't good, but I think because Bruno, although he's cost us a lot of points, he's had moments of importance this season, especially at the beginning. Same with Pogba. I think they've been poor, but I don't think they've been as poor as other players. I think Bruno the last 2 months has been up there as one of our worst players, and if you're going just off the last 2 months, he's in very poor. But I think if you take away those last 2 months, then he's in poor. Nemanja Matic, I would put Nemanja Matic in good. I think he's had a good season, but I don't want him to stay. I say he's had a good season. He's not really, has he? He really hasn't. Like, for me, he'd be a bench player at best, but he is for sale because he's old, and I think you've got to put Matic in for sale. I think he's been one of our better performers. I think he's been bang average, and I think to be one of our better performers, all you've got to do is be bang average, but he's in for sale. Now, Scott McTominay, again, has been poor this season. I think, really, Scott McTominay is a bench player at best. Now, I think, the reason Pogba and Bruno are in poor and Scott and Dello are in bench player at best is because Pogba and Bruno, when they're in form, they're starters. When Pogba and Bruno are playing well, they are starters for a team like United. When McTominay and Dello are playing well, they're still bench players at best for a team like United. So just because McTominay and Dello and bench players at best doesn't mean they're actually better than Pogba and Bruno, if that makes sense. I just think that they are bench players at best. And if I was going to be honest, I think I'd have to put McTominay in very poor. I think he's been absolutely freaking dreadful. I think he's been absolutely dreadful. I think he's got to be in poor. Mejbri goes in future star. Lingard goes in for sale. Mata goes in for sale. De Gea's good. He can stay. I do worry about how he's going to fit in under Erik Ten Hag. I don't know if he 100% suits Erik Ten Hag's system. But you know what? De Gea can stay. He's been good. Let's see if he can adapt his game. Palestri's been meh on loan. I put Palestri in future star. Cavani can piss off. He's been causing issues. Rashford, very poor. You can't even debate that. Rashford, I think, has been our worst player this season in terms of expectations. We had a lot of expectations for Rashford coming back, and he's been dreadful. The fact that he can't get in the lineup over Elanga. At least Mctominay, Maguire can find their way in the lineup, and Bruno can find their way in the lineup. As crap as they've been, Rashford's not even wanted by the manager. He can't find his way in the lineup. I think Rashford's been very, very poor. I think Elanga, future star, works hard. He can stay. Sholatiri, future star. Jadon Sancho's good. I mean, look, has Jadon Sancho had a good season? Probably not. I really should have done another category where I've been like meh, where it's meh. It's not, Fred and De Gea have had better seasons than Sancho, but there was a 2-month period where Sancho looked quite good. He obviously got injured. He's a player that you look at and you can go, he can stay. And the good category is players I don't mind seeing in the Man United starting 11 next season. If you're in the good category, you can stay. I don't mind you being in the starting 11 next season. Bruno and Pogba are in poor. If they can find form, I don't mind them being in the starting 11 next season, although Pogba is leading, and that's how I feel. Sancho, he can more than well stay. Ronaldo goes in the good category. I think he's been our best player this season, followed by De Gea. Martial's got to go in very poor, barely played, demanded a move to Sevilla, and has been absolutely crap on loan. I think Martial really disappointing. I do rate Martial. I think he's a good player. I do like Martial. I'd like him to be at United. I'd like him to stay, actually. I really would, but he's just been crap on loan. I think Donny will put on poor. It's not really Donny's fault, to be fair, because when Ollie gave him a chance, which was never, he was actually quite good. I remember he came on versus Watford, almost saved Ollie's job. I think Donny's actually, he's never really got a chance at United, so I think it's very unfair putting Donny in poor. I think it is, because I don't think he's been as bad as Bruno this season. He went to Everton. Everton obviously not been very good. Yeah, I mean, he didn't play that much for Everton. He's had a few good games, nothing special. I can't put Donny in good, but I would want Donny to stay and be involved next year. And I think I'm going to put him in poor, where, he's not had a good season. He wouldn't be happy with the season. Either will Bruno, either will Pogba. But Donny, Bruno and Pogba, if they find form, I wouldn't mind them in the United starting 11 next season. Obviously, Pogba's leaving. Amad Diallo, I'm putting him in future star. I think he's, the range low move's been hit and miss, but I think he's going to future star. Dean Henderson, you'd have to put him in poor because he's had a poor season. Like, he's not even got on the team, but I'm going to put him in for sale because I think he is for sale, although I think he might suit Ten Hag's style of play a bit more than De Gea, if I'm going to be 100% honest with you. Oh, look at me in the corner. But that's what we've got so far. At the top is players I don't mind seeing in the starting 11 next season. The next tier is people that are bench players at best, and that is Dello. The reason McTominay's not in bench players at best is because he's just been way worse than Dello. You've got Rashford that's been poor, Martial that's been poor. For sale. They're the categories so far. You know what? I really should have thought about how I was going to lay out the categories, to be fair, because I feel like some of these, they don't make 100% sense. They don't really. Because everyone's been shy. Really, it should be Ronaldo and De Gea in their own tier. It should be Sancho, Varane, and Fred in the tier below. Then it should be your future stars and your Donnies, and then then you've got your Delos and your bench players and your Brunos, and then you've got the crap players, and then you've got the really crap players. James Garner has had a good season. I mean, look, James Garner can stay. I think James Garner you should really put in the future star, but I would quite like to see him involved next season, especially if we don't sign a CDM. Ethan Laird, future star. Ted Mengi, future star. Garnacho, future star. The reason I put James Garner not in future stars and the others in future stars is because I think James Garner has had that little bit more loan experience at a higher level. Charlie McNeil, future star. Dylan Levitt, I'll put him future star. I think he's been all right on loan, but I really think that he'll probably go, to be fair. Victor Lindelof, I'm going to put bench player at best. Again, with Dello, I think Lindelof's not been one of our worst performers this season, despite a rocky last few games. I think he's a player I don't mind staying at United and being a bench player. I don't think he's ever good enough to be a United starting 11 player in a team that wants to win titles, but I think he's a very good backup centre-back for someone that gets injured. So for me, Victor Lindelof is a bench player. Let me know where you put Lindelof, and let me know what you disagree and change, because everyone's bound to disagree. Bailly's just for sale. You can't even get in the lineup over Phil Jones. He's been dreadful. Phil Jones is for sale. Maguire's got to go in very poor. He's been absolutely dreadful this season. I mean, he hasn't been as poor as Rashford, but he's cost us Champions League, not top four. He cost us that Atletico Madrid game. He's not a captain. He's not a leader. The club's a mess. He's a captain. He's not doing his responsibilities. He's been very, very poor. I think Luke Shaw, you would put in poor season, just because of how good he was last season compared to this season. Again, Luke Shaw's not been one of our worst performers. Again, he's a player that if he finds form, I don't mind him in the starting 11. Luke Shaw, Donny, Bruno, I think when in form, they're good players, good enough for the starting 11. So I'll put them in poor. I mean, maybe you put Luke Shaw on bench player at best and you get a new left back, but I don't think he's been dreadful. I think in form, he can get in the starting 11. I don't think James Garner can really get in the starting 11, but I just think I'd like to see him next season. And I think he's had such a good season that, I think he's going to establish himself as a Premier League player. Tellers has been very poor. Tellers has been worse than Luke Shaw. He's been absolutely dreadful. And Wan-Bissaka has been very poor. So that is my ranking. The players that can stay are Ronaldo, Varane, Fred, De Gea, Sancho, and James Garner. I wouldn't mind seeing them get some first team minutes. I wouldn't mind seeing James Garner get some first team minutes. I wouldn't mind seeing these guys in the lineup next season. Dello and Lindelof, look, I just think they're bench players at best. I don't mind them staying at United, but I don't think they're starting 11 players. We've got all our future stars. We've got players like Pogba, Bruno, Donny, and Luke Shaw that I think are good enough to get into the starting 11 that have been poor. And then we've got our players that are really, really poor this season. And then we've got the players that need to be gone. I mean, to be fair, I think Wan-Bissaka's in the sale category. And I actually think that Tony Martial is in the sale category as well. Tellers could even go in the sale category as well. But I think that is sort of how you look at the season, and that is my end of season review. Obviously, guys, do let me know what you change. I think, it's a bit of a complicated tier list, isn't it? But let me know what you do differently, what you would change. But that is my tier list for next season. Okay, I will hopefully be live Monday night. There should be a video out tomorrow as well. But if there's any breaking news, I will do a short video because we are in the transfer period of Timber, De Jong, Nunez, a lot of stories. So as always, if you're not subscribed, please do subscribe. Thanks for tuning into this video. I'm actually away this whole weekend, so I'm pre-recording this video. So hopefully nothing breaking happens in the next sort of 48 hours. But yeah, smash a like, smash a subscribe. Thanks for tuning in. Bye, Z.